The heat is officially on. Tyler Bass. What should we expect from Amari Cooper on Sunday? What are the injuries for the game against Tennessee? And of course, my 5 predictions for Sunday are all coming your way today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, folks, welcome in. It's our final conversation before the Buffalo Bills take on the Tennessee Titans in Week 7. So we will get started with my final thoughts going into the game. We'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about the injuries, and then we'll close it out with my 5 predictions for Sunday. Let's start with some news here. And the heat is officially on Tyler Bass, who has, of course, struggled since about midway through last season and doesn't seem like it's getting any better. So the Bills worked out some kickers this week, and they signed one to the practice squad. Lucas Havrisik signed to the Buffalo Bills practice squad. The corresponding move is Amari Brown was released from the practice squad. So now the Bills are carrying a kicker on their practice squad. Let me tell you about Havrisik, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Tyler Bass situation. He played his college football at Arizona. In college, he was 34 of 53 on field goals. Obviously not a great number there. He was an undrafted free agent in 2022. Originally with the Colts, spent time on the practice squad for the Colts and the Browns. And then in 2023, he was signed to the Rams active roster, had a chance to be their kicker for 9 games. So in 9 games in 2023, Havrisik went 19 of 22 on extra points and 15 of 20 on field goals. To break that down for you, he made all 11 field goals under 39 yards, 2 of 6 40 to 49 yards, 2 out of 3 from 50 plus. That's what he did last year in 9 games with the Rams. And this is kind of the point that I've been making with replacing Tyler Bass, is that anybody that you bring in midseason is going to be an inconsistent kicker. They're available for a reason, and there's plenty of teams that have already cycled through kickers. And so you're talking about not the 33rd or the 34th option out there. You're kind of getting down even further into that. And Tyler Bass, obviously, there's some proof of concept. He's had good seasons in Buffalo. He's in a major slump. And I think if there's criticism that you can extend to the Bills brass on this entire situation, is that his struggles were pretty obvious last year through, about midway through the season, through obviously missing that kick against the Chiefs in the playoffs. And there's certainly a strong argument to be made that they should have had competition for him this offseason. I do think that there's some layers to that, though. Now, obviously, you're looking at the way Tyler Bass is performing. You're thinking, how did he not have competition? 2 things come to mind. And I'm not justifying, I'm telling you perhaps the reasons why they didn't have competition. First of all, confidence. The common denominator in any high-performing athlete on a professional stage like this is that they are confident. I've had conversations with coaches. I've had conversations with a lot of different people. You can talk about skill sets all you want, but confidence matters a ton. And, of course, I don't think Tyler Bass has much confidence, and maybe their way in building some confidence in Tyler Bass was, you're our guy. We're committed to you. Yeah, you miss kicks. We believe in you. There's a reason we signed you to this extension. We need you to be the kicker we've paid you to be, and we believe that you can do that. And certainly, if you listen to the messaging from Sean McDermott from that missed kick against the Chiefs all the way through the offseason and even into the preseason where Tyler Bass continued to struggle, he still had very positive messages about their belief in Tyler Bass. Now, obviously, at the end of preseason when he missed those kicks against Pittsburgh, and then throughout the course of the year, the tone has changed. And Sean McDermott's now said things like, look, Tyler Bass knows he needs to make those kicks. It's, all the more aggressive statements in that, hey, we have some concerns here. He's admitted that. And so maybe they didn't want to rob that confidence that they had in Tyler Bass. And it's obviously gotten to the point where they've had to do something. The other part of this conversation is very significant, and it's that there's a $7 million dead cap hit if you cut Tyler Bass. And I'll be honest with you, a $7 million dead cap hit for cutting a kicker is borderline untenable, especially absent of a clear upgrade. You can't absorb that type of dead cap hit for a kicker, especially when these are the options. The Bills looked at kickers. They felt like the best one was Lucas Havrisik, who was terrible in college and was 2 of 6 from 40 to 49 last year. Has bounced around this is his 4th team. And so it's just very difficult to come up with the right solution here. And look, nobody has any confidence in Tyler Bass right now. Are you going to have confidence if Havrisik has to go in and kick a ball for the Bills? I'm still going to be nervous. So you're going to trade that off for a $7 million dead cap hit. It's a complicated situation. But now the heat is on Bass. They've done something. They've added a kicker. Let's move on. One thing that I learned on Friday that I can't believe I never knew is that the NFLPA produces a daily public salary cap report. So you can look and see exactly where teams are in terms of cap space. And so they have the Bills right now at $2.1 million in available cap space. There's not a whole lot of things they can do to create more cap space. So I know that everyone's thinking, all right, what's the next move for Brandon Beane? Is he going to trade for another position? I'm getting questions like crazy in our subtext and in our Discord community. What's the next move for Beane? I don't know. He doesn't have a whole lot of room to work with. And that includes, he's got to have that money to operate the rest of the year. So thought I'd give you that update now that I know that number for sure with the addition of Amari Cooper. Speaking of Amari Cooper, one piece of information that's come through there's been some question about this week is that he does factor into the compensatory pick formula for the Buffalo Bills. So he's an expiring contract, and we'll see if the Bills extend him beyond this season or what the future is. Obviously, I think what happens in the coming weeks will dictate that. But for those of you that say, well, the Bills gave up a 3rd-round pick for potentially a 1-year rental, well, he could walk in free agency and get the Bills a decent compensatory pick back. Obviously, you look at this coming off season, and I don't know how aggressive the Bills will be in free agency. They'll probably make some modest signings that you've typically kind of seen over the last couple of years. But my thought is that the cap space that the Bills will have, which is probably not going to be much, that's probably going to go towards extensions for their own players. Terrel Bernard, Christian Benford, Greg Rousseau, Khalil Shakir. Those are the types of players you got to be thinking about in terms of that cap space. And so with that in mind, I think there is a very real possibility that the Bills are on the good side of cap pick bingo, and they'll get a compensatory pick back potentially in 2026 if they were to lose Amari Cooper. And look, the Bills are scheduled right now to get a 4th-round pick for losing Gabe Davis. He signed for $13 million a season. Surely Amari Cooper's next deal is going to be more than that. And so I think the Bills could be, if they don't bring back Cooper and they let him walk in free agency and it plays out the way I think it can, I think you could be looking at the Bills in 2026 getting a 4th-round pick for Amari Cooper. So yeah, you give up a 3rd-rounder in 2025, but you get Cooper and then you probably get a 4th-round pick back in 2026. I'm interested in seeing Amari Cooper this week. I hope he plays. Sean McDermott's not committed to that. He's complimented the onboarding process and things are going well, but he stopped short of saying he's playing on Sunday. I got a feeling that he is. The Bills just traded for this guy. They're at home for the first time in the last 3 games on the road. You can find 10, 15, 20, 25 snaps for Amari Cooper to come in and run basic passing concepts that he should be able to pick up as a 10-year vet, right? He's in his 10th season. I think there's certainly room. I'm hopeful that there is room for him to play this week and not a ton of snaps. I'm not expecting him to come in and be 60, 70, 80% of the snaps like I do in a few weeks. But come on, 10, 15, 20 snaps, few targets, throw Bills Mafia a bone. Come on, we need it. I think he will. Predictively, I think he will play. And one thing that I did this week on the Substack, I launched a Substack a couple of weeks ago where I write articles about the Bills, and I'd love for you to check it out. There's a link in today's show notes to see the Substack where you can go right to it. I went through and I read a weekly article on Josh Allen. It's a weekly scouting and metrics column where I track all these numbers and I provide analysis to back up the numbers, and sometimes I provide video and all those types of things. But one thing that I did this week is in every component of the Bills passing offense, the regular passing stats, Josh Allen under pressure, Josh Allen deep, play action, screen game, all those different components, I went through and I specifically answered, how does Amari Cooper impact that? And I have a lot of data in there that supports, like, what has Cooper done in play action or under pressure or deep, all these different things in the screen game. And I answered that as well as part of this week's Josh Allen post. So check it out. If you'd like to see it, there's a link in today's show notes to see what that's all about. All right, folks, the injury report for the Bills is interesting this week. Kind of lengthy, not sure of some statuses. We're talking to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills on the other side of it for his analysis on the Bills' injuries, so be sure to stick with me. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Josh Allen rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your polls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform that you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL, code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike on other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is also the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy, so that way your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So check it out. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LockedOnNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LockedOnNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm joined now by Kyle Trimble. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He runs bangedupbills.com. You can follow him on Twitter at bangedupbills. He joins us each week to get us ready for the game from an injury perspective. And it's an interesting report this week, Kyle. There's a lot of names, but there's only 3 players with designations. One of them being Darrington Evans, who's working back from a hamstring injury, who's not on the active roster. I don't think we'll see him this week. Mike Edwards has an illness, and so he's questionable. He practiced all week. He didn't practice on Friday. I think he'll probably be fine, but typically he's inactive on game day. I think the name that's of concern here is Ray Davis. Obviously, big breakout game against the Jets. He was a full participant on Wednesday, but that, of course, seemed like a very light walkthrough, then limited, and then he has a designation of questionable for Sunday. And Sean McDermott said that something kind of popped up during the game against the Jets. And of course, we didn't get any information on that during the game. What do you got here, man? What should we be concerned about this?
A little bit, just because it's calf injury. He has a very powerful running style, getting right up into the thick of things. I would think it'd be very hard for him to be playing on Sunday, especially with a calf injury. I'll be honest, I didn't even catch that McDermott had said it popped up during the game, but he probably kept it loose and probably kept it going. I mean, he was running like a wild horse all around the MetLife Stadium. So the fact that he's able to finish the game and play as well as he did is promising, but either he retweaked something, which we know calves can tend to do, or he was doing fine and then it just wasn't fine later on. Like maybe he was just going through some walkthrough stuff and just it was nagging him to the point where, hey, this is more than just soreness. So I think they did the proper thing by limiting his workload Thursday and Friday. And McDermott had said that he didn't think that he'd be with us on Sunday or something of that variation. So I don't expect him to play given his running style, given it's the location of the injury. And then we know calf injuries can linger. It would not surprise me if they do hold him out another week if this thing is anything of note there. So we'll have to watch the injury report next week, but I don't expect him to play this week just because of the timing and his running style.
I think the good news on that is James Cook is on schedule to play this week. He missed last week with the toe injury and was limited on Wednesday, but practiced in full on Thursday and Friday. Let's mention him and Ed Oliver here. Both players missed last week. And of course, Ed Oliver, 2 games in a row. Neither has a designation for Sunday. I assume they'll both be back, but curious if you think they might have any limitations.
I don't think Oliver will have too much limitations just because the team is pretty proactive about taking care of the soft tissue injuries, and we don't see a recurrence of those injuries later on. So we don't see them nagging for 3 or 4 weeks on the injury report as they try to play through the injury. It's usually you miss the time you need to, and then once you come back, it's usually you're off the injury report, or we don't see that come up again, 2, 3, 4 weeks later. So I don't think Oliver's going to have an issue once he does return. I can't say the same thing for Cook, though. So once again, it looked like a turf toe injury. It might have been a turf toe injury. This also could have been just a nasty toe contusion, just hitting the ground there. The fact that he didn't play last week after this agent said he did or said he would was a little disappointing because I took their word for it. But it might just be more of a pain thing and maybe he's feeling better. I expect him to be more in the passing game and maybe limit his snaps going up the middle of the field just because I don't think that he needs to be pushing through that toe as much there. So if I did have to see one person be limited more than the other, I would expect Cook, but I'm sure they're going to deploy him in such a way to not aggravate the toe and still get, the ball into the proper hands, the proper people so that they can move the ball without limiting the efficiency.
All right, so you're saying maybe no Ray Davis and a limited James Cook. It could be an important week for Ty Johnson against the Tennessee Titans. So we'll obviously be monitoring that. Khalil Shakir, real quick on him. Obviously, he missed 2 weeks ago. He came back, caught a couple of passes. You could tell it was a bit of a reduced workload for Khalil Shakir last week against the Jets. Sean McDermott has told us it's a high ankle sprain. Where, based on what you know about high ankle sprains and what you've seen from Khalil Shakir, where do you think he's at in terms of health? Is he close to 100%, or is he kind of fighting through this?
He's going to be fighting through it. I mean, they were smart to limit his snaps. I really thought they would sit him out another week given the opponent and whatnot, but he seemed like he was more of a decoy. It wasn't surprising he didn't get a ton of reps because we see that even with high ankle sprains, we see a dip in production, especially that first week coming back. The original injury looked like it was mild. I mean, you could still have damage in there and cause problems, but the fact that he hasn't gone re-aggravated it at any point is at least promising that he's not going to be 100%. It might never be truly 100% for the rest of the season, but can he get up to 60 or 70, 80, 90% as the weeks go on? That's where I think he could be at. So he's probably 80% going into the Jets game. Can he be up to 85, maybe 90% coming into this game and then increase his workload? I would think that's pretty reasonable.
17 players are on this injury report. Only 3 have game day designations. We've already mentioned those. Ray Davis, Mike Edwards, questionable. Darrington Evans, doubtful. Is this just a situation, because there are just so many names, that it's week 7, it's a short week, they're probably nursing a lot of guys, or is there anything that we should actually be concerned with when it comes to a guy like Dalton Kincaid, who's on here with a collarbone injury, or, just a number of other players? Anything of concern here to you?
Yes and no. I mean, it is crazy how many names are on there, but how many guys are practicing in full throughout the week? It just sometimes they just need maintenance, and it always depends on positional specific guys too. Connor McGovern, it looked like he suffered AC joint sprain. Those guys are going to play through whatever injuries that they can unless something's broken. So while he's practicing full, it's something they're going to have to monitor and keep, give him game day injections likely and keep him going along there. Like we mentioned, James Cook, that's something you want to make sure that he's not going to get worse and put too much stress through the foot as he's trying to run. Maybe put more in the passing game. We see Terrel Bernard and Taron Johnson work their way back and still wear red non-contact jerseys during the week, just so they're not getting that unnecessary contact, and then they can be fresh and healthy for the game. I think they're taking the proper approach, and if there's guys that need any time off, they're giving that time off because we know that they still have months to go for football, and they don't need to be driving them in the ground to get a 14-3 record and bow out in the divisional round again.
Let's hit one question here on the Tennessee Titans. They have 2 players of consequence that I'm quite interested in. One of them, their starting quarterback, Will Levis. who's had a shoulder deal, and then they had their bye week, which I think was probably helpful. But he practiced in full Wednesday and Thursday, and then limited on Friday. That's interesting to me. And respectfully, I hope he plays. I think that they'd be a better team with Mason Rudolph on the field. So I hope that you tell me that he's going to be good to go. Then the other one is L'Jarius Sneed, who we know has been a really good corner in the NFL and outstanding against the Bills in particular. He's not played well this season, and he's kind of dealing with his own injury. I think those are two players that I'm interested in from the Tennessee side of things. Curious if you have anything on them.
So Will Levis, he suffered a right AC joint sprain against the Dolphins in the first quarter. In week 4, he was unable to finish the game, and Mason Rudolph came in and finished the game, and they ended up winning their only game that up to this point. So he had the well-timed bye week, and then he came back, and he played last week, though he didn't play very well, even though it was a 3-point loss. He was hitting prior to the injury 70% of completions. Week 1 wasn't great for him, but then once he settled in, he was doing better. Last week, he had dropped down to 59% again, and he just was not playing well. We see that often with AC joint sprains, just the lack of accuracy. They're not going to be able to whip the arm around as well as they normally can. We saw the same issue with Josh Allen last year. His mechanics started changing because he had that injury against the Giants, I believe it was, and then his accuracy was off for a little bit, and then the mechanics started changing. So we're seeing that. If I'm the Bills, I'm getting a lot of pressure on him. I'm making him, throw quickly and off balance. So his accuracy is already down because of the injury, and then you throw him off balance and make him think and not get his first read. That could lead to a lot of turnovers or opportunities to at least, get the offense off the field quickly. As for Sneed, he played in almost every defensive snap. He looked like he injured his quad when he was tackling Michael Pittman around the 2-minute mark in the fourth quarter. It was pretty subtle. You didn't really see anything too much. He came up just fine, and then he motioned to come off right at the 2-minute mark, and then he came back on for one more play, and he was kind of sitting down after his last tackle. It looked like a quad contusion, and while a contusion doesn't sound all that bad, when you're dealing with a speed position just as such as he is, trying to run, cut, everything else he needs to do, and that muscle's already painful and swollen, it's going to be hard for him to really do that effectively. And then if he takes another hit to the same area, is he going to lead to a early day? I mean, we don't want that thing tightening up, or he doesn't want that thing tightening up. We do, so he exits the game. But he hasn't been playing great this year. But an injury such as this, especially after not practicing all week, I'm not hopeful that he is playing this week just because he's questionable. So it could be good for the Bills' offense if he doesn't play, but I don't see how he does after not practicing all week.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to monitor. And look, the Titans are already down one of their starting corners, Chidobe Awuzie. So you lose Sneed, you're going to be running with your third and fourth options at outside corner. That's not going to be great for them. All right, we appreciate you, Dr. Kyle Trimble, always coming on, sharing your expertise. We'll do it again next week. Thanks for being here.
Sounds good. Go Bills.
As you know, we just had the rally on the river at Buffalo Riverworks, and that place is incredible. So many fun things to do. Great food, great drinks. One of the coolest places I've ever been to. And look, I recently just found out that their other location was the first brew pub in Buffalo, the beautiful red brick Pearl Street Grill and Brewery. Pearl Street just remodeled the main floor, so the dining room now converts into a stage for live music after Sabres home games, on the weekends, and even during brunches. You get live music year-round. And, of course, many Bills fans have been to weddings at Pearl Street or Riverworks, and their in-house wedding coordinators make the whole process easy, fun, and customizable. Want an elegant, historic wedding with beautiful patios and sunset photos? No problem. How about a custom Buffalo Bills themed wedding? If you can dream it up, they can make it happen. This is also true for holiday parties, corporate events, team building, casual happy hours, and all kinds of events. Also, look, sports fans, you can reserve groups to watch the games on the big screen at Riverworks, or if you are headed to a Sabres game this year, be sure to stop at Pearl Street before, after, or during the game. Enjoy some live music, crispy wings, or one of their new OM organic beers, which are delicious. Pearl Street Grill and Brewery and Buffalo Riverworks, the most authentically Buffalo venues for everything from dinner to live music to your perfect wedding. For more, visit pearlstreetgrill.com or buffaloriverworks.com. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And folks, there's some action I really like this week across the NFL. 2 road dogs that I would go with the money line on. I like the Lions going into Minnesota as road underdogs and winning that game. I mean, let's be honest. The Lions are great at playing against the blitz, and I think Jared Goff's can eat up that Vikings defense. It's been really good this year, but also Sam Darnold. He's kind of become Sam Darnold again here over the last game and a half. I like the Lions. I also like the Chiefs going into San Francisco as road underdogs and winning that game. In fact, I'm not going to lie. I have a parlay on both of those things happening. So check it out. Maybe there's some stuff you like over at FanDuel. They've got all the lines, player props, over-unders, and they also got a great deal for you. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, folks, it's prediction time here on the podcast. I have 5 of them for you. Let's get into it. Number 1, I have the Bills defense recording 3 or more sacks on Sunday. 3 or more. I think they could get 4, 5, or 6. It's going to be a good day for the pass rush. This is a young Titans offensive line. 4 guys on rookie deals. A rookie left tackle in J.C. Latham. Peter Skoronski, second-year player at left guard. A couple of day 2 picks on the right side. And Nicholas Petit-Frere at right tackle. Dylan Raduns at right guard. Nicholas Petit-Frere at right tackle's had a rough year. I think Greg Rousseau, A.J. Epinesa, they're going to eat him up. Dwayne Smoot going to eat these guys up. Not to mention Will Levis has been pressured a lot. The 11th most pressured quarterback in the NFL. And he's not really getting out of pressure. 29% of pressure that he faces this year turns into a sack. That's the 3rd highest rate in the NFL. I think the Bills are going to get some sacks on Sunday. Put me down for 3 or more. Number 2, I think that the Bills will get the most yards of any team against the Titans this year. The most yards. And this is the Titans defense that comes in as the number 1 team in total defense, which means yards conceded. I think the Bills get the most of any team against them this year. Currently, that belongs to the Green Bay Packers, 378 yards. I think the Bills get more than that. So put me down for 379 or more, the most yards against the number 1 team in total defense this year. Number 3, put me down for a season high in rushing yards for Josh Allen. He had 54 against Houston. That's the most he's had this season. So put me down for 55 or more. And what this really comes down to is Josh Allen in that left hand, you could tell it's starting to feel a lot better. Against the Jets, you saw him using it to stiff arm guys, right? You saw him doing the left-handed handoffs a lot cleaner and more normal recently. And plus, this is going to be right at 6 weeks from this game against Tennessee will be right at 6 weeks from the injury. And if there was a fracture in there, it should be completely healed. You can see that he's playing better. And I think you can look at weeks 2 to 5 and say, yeah, you know what? You can see Josh Allen played the game a little bit differently with that hand. The glove was off in practice. Not sure if that'll be true for the game or not. But I think Josh Allen's going to be willing to kind of take off in this game. So put me down for a season-high 55 rushing yards or more. Number 4, I have a Bills defensive player getting their first interception of the year. So far, these are the players on the Bills that have recorded an interception. Jamarcus Ingram has 2. Damar Hamlin has 1. Christian Benford has 1. Terrel Bernard has 1. And Taron Johnson has 1. Somebody's getting there first. Rasul Douglas seems like a really strong candidate. I think he's due for a pick. In fact, if I had to predict one guy to do it, it would be him, but I'll just open it up to anyone getting their first pick. Dorian Williams is a candidate. Taylor Rapp is a candidate. He's starting to play some really good football. How about a defensive lineman, a little tip pass, go catch one? I think somebody gets their first pick of the year for the Bills on defense. And then lastly, I do think that the Bills win this game. They're heavy favorites. They're at home, first time in 3 weeks. They haven't been at home since September 23rd. They're gonna take care of their business. I have high expectations for the Bills. Now, look, I'm old enough to remember last year the Bills losing to the Mac Jones Patriots, who wound up having the 3rd pick in the draft. I'm old enough to remember the 2022 Bills losing to the Urban Meyer Jaguars, who had the number 1 pick in the draft. Like, there's definitely a path for any team in the NFL. But come on now. You got to take care of this business against this quarterback that has been literally worse than Deshaun Watson this year. If you've watched Deshaun Watson and seen how bad he's been, This guy is worse. Got to take care of this business at home. So put me down for a Bills win. To recap, Bills defense records 3 or more sacks. Bills get the most yards of any team against Tennessee this year, which would mean 379 or more. Season high in rushing yards for Josh Allen, which would be 55 or more. A Bills defender gets their first pick of the season, and the Bills win the game. And with that, folks, the hay is in the barn. We've done all we can on this podcast to get ready for this game. Only thing that's left to do is for the Buffalo Bills to go out there and win it. Real quick before we get out of here, I would love to invite you to join the Locked On Bills subtext community. I send out text messages all game long, letting you know what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling after every drive. So if you want to get those texts right to your phone during the game in real time, sign up for the Locked On Bills subtext community. You get a whole lot more than that. You also get my first reaction to all major Bills news. And so this week, I'm texting people about the Amari Cooper deal and all the details with that, the kicker signing, all kinds of stuff. So you get that. So you don't have to scroll through social media all day long wondering what the Bills news is. I'm going to send it right to you, and I'm going to give you my first reaction to it. Plus, you get into our Discord channel. We are having so much fun. Over 1,200 Bills fans in there. It's a big community, just talking about a lot of different stuff, mostly the Bills. We have a daily poll. We got member spotlights. We did easy trivia now twice, and we have contestants lined up. That's a really fun thing that we have going on. I do live things every Wednesday, right? So you can come on, do herd mentality, come on video and ask me a question. We do cool stuff all the time. There's betting stuff. Check it out. Be part of the Locked On Bills subtext community. That gets you into the Discord. So check out the Substack, the subtext, both links in today's show notes and everyday show notes. That's it for this week, folks. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.